Joining me on the line now is Erwin Wallendorf. Erwin, it's fantastic to have you on the line, sir.
Thank you very much for the invite, JP, and thanks to Western Cape Confederation for inviting me.
Well, it's of course your show. You're a provincial structure, Western Cape Racing Pigeons. So, I mean, you've been on the show, of course, many times, of course, in the studio. So we're crossing to you under slightly different conditions now. You're having to cross to us via the wires. But I think to get the ball rolling, many people have not watched the show maybe before, and you would have had this question 1,000 times: is what is racing pigeons?
Racing pigeon is a sport where many different people of different professions um, throughout the Western Cape participate in a sport which is really about a racing pigeon. What that does mean is pigeons have to be purchased and then eventually bred for racing purposes. The genetics have to be right. And these pigeons, obviously, when they are bred, have to be coached and trained, fed the right food and balances of food and protein and carbohydrates.
You're giving me a whole lot of information here. I want to just go back a step here. I'm assuming that these are
Yes,
not pigeons that you'll find on the Grand Parade.
no, that's what that's what we call feral pigeons. It's
Right, right, right.
genetically just a little bit different. Um,
So
what's
you're,
important is the
yeah.
genetic pool of your pigeons. Yes.
So I mean,
Sorry.
you're talking to me very much that you're talking to me as if these pigeons are high performance athletes. I mean, you're talking about nutrition of protein and carbohydrates and fats. I mean, these are the kind of things that we hear about the typical athlete that's going to the Olympics.
Birds are basically fed via different grain types. That's the primary source of food. And then nowadays you have scientists producing proteins for better applications
Right,
and
right, right.
carbohydrates. And you have to then prepare your bird throughout the week. When he comes home from a race, which is anything from 150 kilometers up to about 900
Yeah,
kilometers,
yeah.
even needs a bit of proteins to recover from his race.
I mean, a few
Yeah.
years
Yep.
ago, we saw, I think maybe it was, and you'll probably say that this is one of the things that helped put pigeon racing on the map, is we saw Mike Tyson on his, that documentary series on TV where he had pigeons in his loft and he was feeding these pigeons and they were like his pets and he would race them every morning. Is that the kind of thing? I mean, is that how it works? Is that how popular it is?
Yes, Mike Tyson is known to all the pigeon fanciers throughout the world. Mike Tyson gravitated to sport with pigeons
Right, right.
because it had a very calming effect on his well-being, to put it nicely. And the boxing promoter that saw Mike Tyson hit a bloke with one punch at the age of 14, much bigger than him, who hurt one of his pigeons, took him under his wing, and then he eventually became a world champion. But he says that he finds solace and comfort by being with his racing pigeon.
Is that how it is locally? Do we have, who has racing pigeons? Is it domestic or is it at a club level? Like, where do you
It's,
keep your birds?
well, every pigeon fancier will have a loft at his residence. Some nowadays people share a loft because of costs involved, and obviously it's unique throughout South Africa.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, doesn't matter who you are. What we are trying to do is promote our sport amongst the youth. I've
yeah.
got a young man out in Robertson who's in a wheelchair. We communicate every day with each other. He keeps pigeons. I've helped him. Many pigeon fanciers help him with the genetics. Last year, he almost became club champion. And it ranges from an ordinary
Yeah,
working
yeah.
person, young schoolboy, doctors, professors, preachers. The most expensive bird was bought by chap with the surname of Samuels.
I was just about to ask you about that,
Yes.
because I've had some interesting conversations with yourself in the past, and with Fadil Hendricks, your president, I think at a national level, if he's still the president there. But you both told me these interesting stories about birds on auction. That's my one question. Birds on auction that are going at these extremely high prices, but also that you've got $1 million racing pigeons race.
Correct. We have in the Gauteng region, we have a massive loft that can hold approximately 4,500 to 5,000 pigeons. This is universally worldwide. They are applying these rules by keeping these large lofts, and then they promote a competition for these birds. And yes, $1 million can be won. We have on occasions where South African pigeon fanciers have won these races, $1 million, and we in actual fact attract a worldwide audience.
A last question. Obviously, it's lockdown at the moment. COVID is threatening out there, and the lockdown has had a significant impact on the world of sport. And we keep waiting for the announcements to see what we can and can't do. But what you've explained to me so far is that the birds are very much nested at home in people's houses. And so what has the impact been for you guys in terms of COVID? Are you as individuals still able to fly the birds during the day and have them come back, or how's it working at Racing Pigeons?
We are in a quandary at the moment in respect of initiating the training process. We have obviously applied to the correct departments. We have applied to SASCOC and government to kickstart our sport in such a way. Because you must remember, it's not a contact sport. It's a pigeon and a fancier. And you in actual fact don't, only in the clubhouse situation where you entered in a race will there be some contact. But your training on the road, as any athlete is concerned, running on a treadmill and doing road work and mountain work is a little bit different, isn't it?
Flying work,
you sharpen up your fitness by doing road work.
That's fascinating. Erwin, we're going to leave it at that. It's been great chatting with you. And of course, for folks to find out more about joining up, they can visit the national website, the SAMPO website, which is, of course, the South African National Pigeon Organization.
Yes, and you would find all the different provinces' contact numbers and email addresses are on this site.
Right, folks, of course, Erwin Wallendorf there is the president of Western Cape Racing Pigeons, and it's a fascinating sport, and it's one of those that, well, it sounds to me like it's something that pretty much everybody can do. You just have to find yourself a little space at home, get a hold of Western Cape Racing Pigeons and start the process. And I love the fact that you can do this during lockdown. Of course, as Erwin said, you can't go out on the road, but nevertheless, you can be active as what he calls a fancier during the day.